Can this knife stand out amongst thousands of others? If you've been in sync with the EDC community at all in the past few years, you've definitely heard of the CJRB Centros. You might have heard of the Civivi Hadros. The designer of those two has brought us this, the Dylan Mallery Phorus. The Phorus are getting about a 3.5-inch long blade length with an overall of 3 inches of cutting edge. The overall knife length is coming in at 8 inches. Holy crap, the blade stock's coming in real narrow, almost at 100,000ths of an inch. The behind the edge is a little bit thicker than one would imagine, but with that blade geometry, this thing cuts like a freaking razor blade. This is relatively thinner than most knives. As you guys know, the Rat Model 2 is coming in at 1/2 inch thick, and I use that as my baseline. The overall height in the pocket's coming in at 1.3 inches, coming in at exactly 3 ounces. So this razor thin blade's coming in with S35 VN. The edges are nicely chamfered down, so there is no sharp point on this blade except for the cutting edge. The sharpening choil is generous enough to allow your finger to fully get in there, and that's a good thing. It does have a titanium pivot collar, a milled titanium clip, and almost a full-body titanium backspacer. The scales are this beautiful marble carbon fiber. Absolutely beautiful. The liners are heavily recessed, and they are milled out just on the show side only, alleviating even more weight. So while the Dylan Mallery Phorus is showing a lot of signs of good things, there are some bad, and let's check them out. We have 2 things. One that's minor, but we need to start attacking it overall, and that is these T6 screws. These T6 screws just need to go. If we want to maintenance our knives, we should be able to without fear of stripping these damn things out. Another item on the bad list is access to this liner lock. You can only access it in this one spot, and while that looks like it's a lot of room, it's not. It's scalloped in a way on the liner to where it's supposedly soft, and it does feel soft when you get on there, but getting on there is a little bit more difficult than most knives, and that isn't fun for a knife that is so beautiful and so easily opened. You want to be able to easily close it. In the world of a million beautiful knives and amazing knives, they are all doing a lot of average things, and this is no exception. The ergonomics are relatively average of this. They don't feel bad, but there's no hand melting factor here. The action on this knife, while the opening action is amazing, access to that liner makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of play around with, taking it from a beautifully done open and closing of the knife to just average, because you have one beautiful piece of it, and then you have one not so good. This pocket clip works just fine. It goes in and out of the pocket just fine, but there's nothing special about it. It takes a lot for a pocket clip to be special, and this looks good, but there's just kind of something plain and average about it. I hesitate to put this last one in the average category, but the price, coming in at $175 for S35 VN, marbled carbon fiber that's contoured, and then titanium pieces such as the pocket clip and the backspacer and the pivot collar. Now, while this might get a pass from the average to great category, is that Dylan did this on his own. And most times when people do these things on their own, you see that price much higher. So that's where I'm hesitating between the average and the great on that price. I am not mad at the price by any means. I'm just saying there's a lot of competition there. Now, you can't talk about the bad and the average of a knife without talking about the things that it does great. So this knife does 3 things that are great, and in order, here they are. First and least greatest of the great is I love how they recessed these liners. It allows this knife to hold a much more discreet profile, and it actually allows for the carry factor of this knife in and out of your pocket to be very, very nice, and every day to be extremely easy to carry. This knife is a dream to carry. It's just like the bug out. You do not know it's there. The second great thing that this knife truly does is that the attention to detail is so impeccable here. On this opening slot right here, all the edges are chamfered down nicely, but that doesn't stop you from attacking it so very easily. As I said, the liner's difficult to get to, but on this blade, this is stupid easy to access. As you can see, the spine is crowned beautifully as well, along with, and this is the kicker, this finger choil. They actually crowned it or chamfered it wherever they could right here to make that landing zone just beautifully comfortable. And I think they did that finger choil better than any other knife could have done. The third and best thing that this knife does oh so well, better than most knives out there, is this blade. Starting at 100 thousandths, coming down to about 17 thousandths behind the edge, it is a wicked razor blade. This thing disappears on camera. Look at this. It's practically gone. And when you slice things, this is the type of knife that will slice an apple without splitting it. It's pretty incredible how thin that blade is and how easy it was going through that apple. The Dylan Mallery Phorus definitely has more great things going for it and average things going for it than bad. While this knife has many greats and averages, I would still consider the Dylan Mallery Phorus on the upper edge of average. But it does do one thing, easily in the top 5% of all knives made, better than any other knife, and that is its ability to slice, which is a knife's job. So we talked about the knife being $175, and is that the value point that it needs to be set at for S35, marbled carbon fiber, yada, yada, yada. I think for Dylan doing this on his own, and the design of that blade and all the detail paid to that blade, there was more detail paid into that blade than the rest of the knife for sure. And he nailed that blade out of the park. The $175 is by far and large a very, very fair price point. I don't think I would expect to see it any less than that. So Dylan Mallery, I thank you for making such a great knife. This thing is truly awesome, and it was refreshing to take a look at in a sea of just Civivis and all these other things that show up on the table. This is a refreshing one, and I was excited to review this. If you haven't yet, subscribe. Stay sharp, stay safe. You guys take care of yourselves, and have a great freaking rest of your day. Thanks for watching, guys.